students, welcome to the session of IT. Today we'll be continuing with the first chapter, the basics of information technology. So in today's session we will be learning about the architecture of the computer. The computer architecture is a specification detailing of the set of software and hardware technology standards which interact with each other to form the computer system. So basically we know that a computer is made up of hardware and software. So when these hardware and the software they interact with each other, they have to follow certain rules and protocols. So when this entire system together works to give the user the desired output, then we say it is this detailed specification is the computer architecture, and it also refers to the designing of the computer system. So how the system is designed and how it is going to work. For example, if you have a user typing in some characters from the keyboard, then it should be converted into a digital form and stored in the computer's memory. So all this set of guidelines, it all refers to the computer architecture. Now this is the computer system and the peripherals. As we can see that there are different hardware which work together to form the entire computer system. So first is the keyboard. It is the principal input device which is used to type in the instructions into the computer. Then as you type in, if you want to see what you have typed in, you can see it using a monitor, which is an output device, and that lets you see your work as you go. Sometimes you can even use a microphone to give the input to the computer. So a microphone is an input device which is used to get the spoken input. Once you have spoken your words or whatever you want to say, then you can hear that audio using a speaker. So speaker is an output device which is used to produce the audio output. Then you can even use a mouse to make on-screen selections. So mouse is also an input device which is a pointer device which has got a cursor which points on the screen. So it's a pointing device which is used to make the on-screen selections. Then if you want to have a printed copy of the computer output, then you can use a printer. Then there will be an entire, this case is the CPU which contains the CPU, it contains the memory, power supply, the disk drives and other hardware such as the modem that has got an internal format. So this entire box that you must have seen when you must have visited your computer lab, or even you must be having a PC in your house. So this box, it contains the CPU, the central processing unit, the memory which can store the data, the power supply which will convert your high voltage into the voltage which is required by the computer. Then the disk drives. Now there will be a hard disk which can store the data, and then there will be other CD drive which can read your CDs, and sometimes you can even have a modem which can connect you to an internet. Then you can have a CD DVD drive which will, this is, you can see it here. Okay, so here you can insert your CD and DVD drive, and it is an external hardware memory which can allow the user to view the data from an external source. Then you also have a web camera, which is used to capture the still picture or a motion video. So as you are talking, or if you want to show your you want to be visible on the video, then you can use a web camera, which can be used for capturing your face or your picture, or even you can have a video. Then you also have a USB port. Now this USB, Universal Serial Bus port, it allows you to insert your pen drives. Now most of the hardware devices, they come up with a USB port. Like initially you had a serial port for your mouse, a parallel port for your printer, but now usually all the hardware devices, they are manufactured with this USB port. So you can insert that port on any of the electronic device and transfer the data. Now a computer can be divided into three basic components. The first is the input unit, the CPU, the central processing unit, and the output unit. So this is the block diagram of the computer. Here we can see that the dotted line, it indicates the control flow, and the solid line, it indicates the data flow. So here we can see in this diagram, there is a dotted line coming from the control unit to the output unit, to the memory, and to the input unit. And there are solid lines, that is the data flow between the secondary memory and the main memory. So basically it will be like the data will be typed in from the input device, and it will be transferred to the memory, and from the memory it will be processed with the help of the control unit, and then this processed data will be shown in the form of information from the output units. So the output unit, the unit can be a printer or a monitor, and the input device can be your keyboard or a mouse. Then apart from that, you also have an ALU and the logical unit, which will process all your arithmetic and logical functions with the help of the control unit. So this entire block is the CPU. Now as you can see that CPU is made up of memory, the control unit, and the ALU. So CPU can again be divided into three main components: the memory, the control unit, and the ALU. Now let us study the input unit in detail. So this unit will help the user to enter the data and commands into the computer system. So we need a source where a user can send the information to the computer system. So it is going to be through the input unit. This data can be in the form of numbers, words, actions, and commands. And the main function of the input unit is to direct the commands and the data into the computer. Then the computer will use its CPU to process this data and produce the output. Now for example, a keyboard is an input device. Similarly, even your mouse can be an input device which can be used for entering the directions and the commands. When you click on any of the command or any of the button on the screen, then that also can be used to send the directions or the commands to the computer. Another example is the touch screen. As you can see in most of the ATMs and even the smartphones, you have this touch screen where you don't have to type in anything. Just by touching the screen you can enter the commands. Now the examples of this are the smartphones and the ATM machines, which are becoming very popular nowadays. Here we can see some more examples of the input. Now this is the barcode. Okay, it is made up of lines of various width. As you can see here, this is a barcode. You can see that there are lines of various width. The height also sometimes changes, so you can say that every width is going to represent a number. Now 0 will be of this height, 3 will be of a little, it will have a width which is more than 0. So it is going to have width of various sizes, and then this can be scanned by using this barcode reader. So this barcode reader, you just have to place this over this barcode and immediately it will scan and convert this figure or this barcode into the numerical representation. So in case of supermarkets or where there is a bulk production, it is not possible for the employees to count every particular product. So in that case they will simply scan the barcodes, and that barcode will be nothing but the number of it along with some additional information, where when it was manufactured, when is it going to expire, and what is the number for it. So there will be various information will be associated with that barcode. That information will be also passed along with the number of that item. So this just simplifies and it gives you a very accurate count of that material. Also it will help you to speed up your work. The next example is the magnetic MICR. This is your MICR. Okay, this is your MICR. You can see it here that when you see a check, then you will find some numbers. So that is nothing but your MICR code, which is the magnetic ink character recognition. So that number also, it will have certain additional information associated with it. So simply when the check is inserted into the machine, it will get scanned and various other information is also processed along with it. The third example is the OCR, which is the optical character recognition. As you can see it here, the user simply has to place that OCR machine over the text, and it with the help, it's a OCR, so optical character recognition. So it will just simply be converted into light, and then that light will be converted into your digital signals and passed on to your computer system. So this also is one way of accepting the input from the user. You don't have to type in the text, simply you have to go and place your OCR machine over the text and it gets converted into the text. Now the next central processing unit. As I told you, it is divided into three main parts: the ALU, control unit, and the memory unit. So the function of the CPU is to process the data. Once it has been accepted from the input device, then it will process that data. And for processing data, we have to rely on this CPU. So it will accept the data from the input device, from the users. Now this is the top view of the CPU and of the internal view of the CPU. So once you have opened your box, then this is the side view of it. So you can see that this is the power supply. PSU is the power supply unit, and then you have the CPU, then you have this RAM, which is a memory, then you have the video card. Okay, this is used for graphic purpose. You have the fan, which helps for the cooling of the entire set, because when you keep the computer on for a long time, the components get heated up. So to maintain that temperature, cooling fan is required. So the function of this fan is to cool it. Then you have this motherboard, which has got all the chips inbuilt on it, up along with the RAM and video cards, all your ICs or the chips that are being soldered onto this motherboard. Then you have this hard drive, which is your storage device, your CD-ROM, which reads the CD or the DVD. So this is the internal view of the CPU. Now let us study the ALU part in detail. ALU stands for Arithmetic Logical Unit. So this, as the name indicates, it will perform the arithmetic operations, and it does the basic mathematical calculations like your addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, etc. Also, you can perform the logical functions like the comparison of data. So if you want to compare two numbers or some data, then ALU will perform that function as well. The control unit is the backbone of the computers, and it is responsible for coordinating the task between the components of the computer system. So whatever computer systems like your input device, your memory, your ALU and your output device, all the functions between them is coordinated by the control unit. Now this control unit, it will collect the data from the inputs unit and it will send it to the processing units depending upon its nature. So if the data is to be stored, it is just to be saved, then it will send it to the memory. Suppose it has to be calculated, you have typed in two numbers and you want to find the product of it, then it will send it to the ALU. The ALU will give you the product, and finally the control unit will transmit the data to the output unit, and it will be shown to the user, whether it is in the form of your browser or your monitor, or it can be even from a printer. So it will facilitate all the data to be processed, and finally the output will be visible to the user. Then you have the memory unit. Now once the user has entered the data from the input device, sometimes the data has to be saved in its memory. Now it can be your temporary memory or your some external memory device. So this memory unit will allow the data to remain there until the other components of the CPU processes it. And this memory unit, it uses a pre-programmed instructions to further transmit the data to the other parts of the CPU. Because sometimes what happens, you have typed in, suppose you have typed in the students of the 10 marks of the students, and you want to find the sum of it, then you have to store those 10 marks somewhere. So this memory unit is to be used for storing those 10 marks along with the function. If you want to find the sum along with the percentage, then the memory will use those pre-programmed instructions, like there will be some functions for calculation of percentage and sum. So all those functions also are used by stored by the memory unit, and those functions can be fetched by the control unit, process it, and further it can transmit this data to the other parts of the CPU. Now here we see the types of the memory. Now you can see that The memory is divided first of all into two main parts. One is the main memory and the secondary memory, primary memory and the secondary memory. So primary memory is sometimes called as main memory as well, and the secondary memory, which has got a higher capacity of storage of data. Now this primary memory is further divided into RAM and ROM, and the secondary memory can be further classified into HDD, SSD, CD, magnetic disk, magnetic tape, flash memory and pen drives. So we will be learning more about these secondary memory ahead. So as we saw that primary memory and secondary memory are the two main types of memory. Now primary memory is the internal memory of the computer. Now this memory, it resides inside the computer and it is also known as the main memory. Primary memory will hold the data and the instructions on which the computer is currently working. So consider the example of the marks of the 10 students. So this primary memory will hold the marks of those 10 students when the calculation is taking place. So this primary memory should be large enough to hold the current data. So see, if your PC is fast, you say when you PC is very fast, this means you have a higher capacity of the primary memory. Now primary memory is generally of two types. RAM and ROM. So RAM means random access memory and ROM means read-only memory. It is read-only memory. Now here is the differentiation between RAM and ROM. As we can see it here, RAM is nothing but a small PCB. You can see various chips mounted on the printed circuit board. So this is a RAM chip, and for ROM you just have a single chip. RAM is also known as read-write memory, and it is also referred to as the main memory of the computer. ROM is the read-only memory. As the name indicates, it is only you can read it. You cannot write anything. While RAM is read-write memory, you can write it. The content of the RAM can be modified. The content, whatever is written in the RAM, it can be modified and it is a temporary memory. While for ROM, the content of the ROM is decided by the computer manufacturer and it is permanently stored at the time of manufacturing. So whatever, when the ROM is being manufactured, at that time the manufacturer, he saves some information in the ROM and that cannot be erased. So it is permanent. The information is lost as the power supply to the computer is switched off. So as soon as you switch off your computer, the whatever was saved in the RAM is lost, that information is lost. But even when you switch off your computer, the contents of ROM is not lost, it is permanent. RAM is also called as volatile memory and ROM is called as non-volatile memory. Why? Because it cannot be overwritten by the computer. So once you have written something, you cannot erase it. So it is called as non-volatile memory. CPU needs, so RAM will store the data that the CPU needs for current processing. So whatever instructions that are being executed at the time of current processing, so all that data will be stored in RAM. So if you have opened several applications at the same time, this means all the applications are working, they are currently working. So the capacity of this RAM should be high enough to cater to the needs of those instructions. So sometimes if you have opened several programs and you will find the computer has become very slow. Why? Because the memory of RAM is not that high enough to process all the data. So it will reduce the speed of the computer. So if you want your computer to work very fast, then you have to increase the value of your RAM. Now RAM, it contains the data that is used by the computer for booting. So as it has been written at the time of manufacturing, it contains the information which is required for booting up the computer. Like it has the instructions which starts your computer. Booting means to start your computer. Now if we compare the speed of RAM to ROM, the speed of RAM is higher and speed of ROM is slower than RAM. So these are some of the differences between ROM and ROM. The second type of memory. The first type of memory was the primary memory. The second type is the secondary memory. Now this is the external memory to the computer. Now this memory, you will not find it in your motherboard. It is external to it. And the advantage or the use of this secondary memory is that it is used to hold huge amount of different programs and information. Now the primary memory, the function of the primary memory is to store the programs that are used for booting up. Apart from that, it will also have some programs which are used for interacting between your IO devices and your motherboard. RAM will have the information of the programs that are currently being executed. Then if we have got large amount of information, for example, if you want to save your entire school information somewhere, then you need to have a memory device which has got larger storage capacity. So we have to make use of a secondary memory in that case. Now this secondary memory is used to store huge amount of different programs and information. There are different types of secondary storage devices. The first one is the magnetic disk. You have magnetic tapes, pen drives, flash memory, optical disk which comprises of your CD and DVD, and then your SSD. So here you can see the figures of the memory devices. This is your hard disk which gets mounted on your CPU. Then you have the RAM. As I told you, this is a chip. This is a PCB which has got different chips. This is a single chip of RAM. This is your CD. Even your DVD looks like this. In the earlier times, floppies were used. The floppies used to look like this. It had very less storage capacity. Then this is the memory card, which is basically used in your mobiles. Then you must have used pen drives, the external drives. Now this gets connected to your USB port. And then there are magnetic tapes. So we'll just have a look at this magnetic disc. You can see that it has got different magnetic discs like this, which are mounted one above the other, and it is a non-volatile storage device, which means that once you have saved the data, it will store the data permanently. And it has got flat circular shaped platters. So you can see this platters which will look like CD, and the diameter of each platter ranges from 1.8 to 5.25 inches. So there is a read-write head which will place over the required platter, and then the required information can be read. Then you have the solid state drive. Now these are the latest storage devices that have been replaced the traditional mechanical hard disk. They use the flash based memory system. Like you can save the data using the flash memory, and these SSDs, the solid state drive, it is the new generation storage device, and it can be it is very fast as compared to your traditional storage devices which were very slower. SSDs, they speed up the computer significantly due to their low read access times and fast throughputs, which means that the access time to read the data from these SSDs is very low as compared to this magnetic disk, because there is a read write head which will take some time to position itself over the required platter, while in this you just have a small chips inside, so that doesn't take much time and the access time becomes more lesser, and it is giving you the it will process your output also faster. So it has got fast throughputs, and the memory chips on SSD are comparable to the RAM. So we saw that the speed of RAM was faster than ROM. So this speed of this memory chips on the SSD can be compared to the RAM. Then you have got a pen drive, which is a portable storage device, and they have replaced the floppy drives. As floppy drive could be carried from one place to the other, a pen drive also can be carried, and you can transfer the data from one device to the other. And another advantage is it is smaller in size, and it is lightweight, and it is handy, and it is usually used by the students, professionals, and all the people who wants to transfer the data from one device to the other. And it comes with storage capacities of various ranges from 8 GB to 34 GB, and it can even use to store the heavy graphics documents, photos and audio files, and even you can save movies. The third output unit is the third and the final component of the computer system is the output unit. After the data has been processed from the control unit, it gets converted into a format which the humans can understand. Now the data has become information and it is ready to be presented to the user. So this output unit, it displays this information to the user. And examples of the output unit includes your monitors, screens, printers, speakers. These are some of the examples of the output devices. You have a webcam, you have a microphone where you can hear the audio, you have speakers, you can have the output visible on the screen, you can have headphones and printers. There are different types of printer, inkjet printers, laser printers, etc. Depending on your requirement, you can use a printer of your choice. That's all for this session. We have learnt about the architecture of the computer in this session. Hope you have understood it. In case you have any doubt, you can WhatsApp to me. Thank you.